And now, in studio, bringing his Midwest values from the Show Me State to the land of San Diego. He's a triple threat, licensed as an attorney, mortgage broker, and a top producing realtor who's crushing the competition. Here to deliver you what's happening in the trenches of the market. Your host, Michael Gaddis.
Welcome back to the Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170 The Answer. I am your host, Michael Gaddis of michaelgaddis.com and frontierloangroup.com. And I have a very special guest coming on today, and his name is Alexander Aubel. And he recently wrote a book called A Theory on Aging, or De-Evolution of Movement. He has a website at www.dmarpt.com. That's dmarpt.com, and he's a Del Mar professional trainer, correct?
I am the owner of Del Mar Personal Training.
So, Alex, you go by Alex?
I go by Alex, yeah.
Okay, Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about your book?
My book was basically a collection of the last kind of like 10 years of work. Like, I've been dedicated for pretty much since I graduated college on studying how the human body moves, how it works, how it heals itself. And I kind of had a diversified background. Like I actually was a psychology major as well, and fell in love with that and anthropology. And then I tore my ACL in college, like doing a hungover pickup football game. I wish I could say I was doing something better, but that kind of changed the entire direction. I was a finance major as well as psychology. I had worked at Merrill Lynch, and I kind of went into that area and got my first job off of Craigslist, and over the last 5 years I've done about 17,500 personal training sessions, like helping all walks of life, and the book is really a collection of all my stories, everything I've learned, everyone I've helped, and basically how it all works together. And there's a process that's called sarcopenia, which most people have never heard of, but basically, at about age 30, we begin to lose skeletal muscle tissue. About like 3 to 8% every decade, we just begin to diminish. And that is, in my estimation, the cause of most every age-related issue that we have. And when you kind of combine that together with kind of like the collected stress over time, like how we change from like sitting, 8 hours a day, working, family, your body basically starts to break down, joint by joint, piece by piece, and what I've found is this all kind of collects into our de-evolution of movement, and that's kind of the idea of the book.
Well, you're a great guest for me to have on, because you must have been listening to my wife and I talk last week, because she mentioned to me that, I work a lot, so I sit a lot, and she told me, she said, Michael, you can't sit that much. She goes, it's not good for you, and you do it all the time. And because I get so busy behind my desk and I'm on the phone, or I'm, writing something, or I'm doing something, it's all sitting. And so we just made a resolution together that goes along with my New Year's resolution I talked about last week. I'm actually going to get a treadmill. I'm going to put a treadmill in one of the back rooms of my office, so that between like 12 and 1 I can go back and just do some cardiovascular activity. And whatever I can, at least to break up my sitting day, so I'm not just sitting continuously for a long period of time. And that seems to be what you're talking about.
That is it. I have clients who've got treadmill workstations. I mean, they're lawyers. They work 14, 15 hours a day, and that's kind of what happens. Like you sit, and the number one thing I've kind of found with our bodies is we adapt to everything that we do. Like whether we want to or not, it's kind of just like evolutionarily ingrained in us. And what you were talking about earlier is, as far as it relates to like New Year's resolutions, and a quote like that just guides me is, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act but a habit. And that's from Aristotle, and it basically defines us, like how we think, how we move, and if you train us to sit all day, we're going to be really good at sitting. If you train us to run all day, you can be a marathoner, and everything in between. And with all of that kind of collected together with our modern society, we start to hunch, we start to round, we start to de-evolve almost. Like we get a little rounded posture, our chest starts crowning forward, and our bodies just stop working as they once did. Like you were talking about how you used to work out 3 hours a day. Like we don't have that. My whole program and what's in the end of the book, which is kind of the last just 10 years of obsession, is how can you do that efficiently? How can you spend 30 to 45 minutes 2 to 3 times a week and get all the results of 3 to 4 hours a day? And that's kind of where my program is. It's what I do with all my clients. And I've been fortunate enough to have some really, really great success with a lot of really great people and kind of transitioning and transforming their life. And it all starts with that decision you were talking about earlier. It just becomes, how do you make that decision happen? And that's the key of it.
Well, you're listening to the Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170, The Answer. I am your host, Michael Gaddis of michaelgaddis.com and frontierloangroup.com. Our special guest today is Alexander Aubel, who just recently wrote a book called A Theory on Aging, or De-Evolution of Movement. Website dmarpt.com. That's dmarpt.com. Alex, I have a question. You know, you mentioned earlier about how our bodies start to de-evolve, so to speak. You know, can you counter that? Let's say there's years of neglect. Let's say, you know, like myself, you know, I used to do this religiously for like 8 years. I religiously worked out, and then, you know, I broke down. And it's been a number of years since I've done it, and I've got a lot of bad habits, you know, sitting in front of computers, and, you know, I can feel my body just isn't what it wants. But can it be countered? Can you bring it back?
Absolutely, and that's one of the coolest things about our systems and our body is that you can reverse the trend. Just a lot of people reverse it incorrectly. Like let's say you haven't worked out in as long as you have, and all of a sudden you're like, I want to go run today. So what do? You get up and you're like, oh, you start running, you feel great, you run for 3 to 5 miles, and your body's just a wreck. Like every system just got overloaded. You can't walk. You know, everyone's at work asking you like, dude, what's wrong? What's happening? And you're like, well, I went running the other day and I think everything hurts. Like I can't get up, I can't go to the bathroom, I can't do anything. So the idea is when you've been taking a long break, and this is kind of what I specialize in, is making sure you systematically kind of wake up the areas of the body that have been inactive. And you can do it kind of passively. So the first month shouldn't be about like changing your life, like making it like, oh my God, we're gonna really change everything in a month. It's, I need to build enough positive habits to start to get the ball rolling. Like that I can kick that snowball down the hill and I can get some momentum and get my life back. And resistance training and kind of interval training is the way to do that. And our bodies respond and can actually reverse the process of sarcopenia, that degeneration of muscle tissue. And it's been scientifically proven across all populations that you can actually reverse and kind of move back to a younger version of yourself.
Well, I think you keep hitting on or alluding to something that when I was working out all the time, the one thing I used to tell people is, you know, it takes discipline to do what I used to do. It takes discipline to eat right. It takes discipline to make your body go to work out when you're supposed to. There are, just like Paul was mentioning earlier, there's 1,000 reasons why you can convince yourself that you shouldn't be able to do it. Like, for example, take this morning, for example. I woke up at like 5:30 this morning. And for the last 2 weeks, I've been getting up and I've been doing 30 minutes on the elliptical every morning. So I've just been trying to get myself eased into it. So this morning I wake up and I'm like, you know, this voice came in my head. You know, you're tired, and you know what? You're a little bit sore. You don't need to do it today. Everybody will understand. Nobody will judge you. You don't need to do it. And you know what? I sat there for a minute and I almost fell into it because the next voice said, oh, you're so comfortable in bed this morning. Why get up and do it? And then I said, you know what? I have to be disciplined. I cannot give in to that voice. So I made myself get out of bed. And you know what? I felt so good after I was done because I know that if I wouldn't have done it all day long, I would have regretted listening to that stupid little voice in my head trying to talk me out of it. And I think we all have that voice in our head, don't we?
Everyone does. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to work with, I would say, I train about 10 physicians right now, and if anyone could have an excuse to not work out, I've had people who come in after a call night, like 24. They've been on call for 24 straight hours, and they will make it in at 9 in the morning because it's a have to. For them, it's not just, oh, I kind of want to work out right now. I kind of want to do that. It's I have to. Why? Because it gives me all these things that I want from life. I want to feel better, I want to look better, I want to have more energy, I want to spend more time with my kids. And like the story you're telling about that reverse mortgage couple, like that is the case with so many people like that. You live in you don't live in the moment. You stop. And you also don't take care of yourself in the moment. So when you get to your retirement age, all you're doing is going to doctor's visits over and over and over again. And instead of actually being like, My best example is I have a client, Betty, who's probably will listen later tonight. She's 78 years old, from Britain. She does everything. I had to talk her out of trying to move her own Christmas tree over the holidays. She dragged it from her front door to her house. She went on a trip to Mexico by herself, 77 years old. She lives. She's taken a shot in a glacier bar in Patagonia at age 75. That was her 75th birthday present to herself. And if you make that choice, if you make the commitment and kind of find the reasons why to do something versus what you're talking about, those excuses versus in my whole thing I tell everyone is always find a reason. Find a great reason to do something versus 1,000 reasons not to. And if you can really ingrain it in your head, and that's kind of what my book is all about, is understanding all the benefits that exercise continuously and habitually has to offer. And if you do make that commitment, you can actually slow down the aging process in our body, from the cellular level all the way to abs, from everywhere. And I've spent the better, pretty much my entire professional career researching and obsessing and kind of coming up with that magic pill, and that magic pill is continuous and habitual exercise. Done the right way, I think my program is pretty great because anyone can do it. It's very tailored. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to go to CrossFit. You don't have to kill yourself. But if you do it and you get it going and you get up to a point where you can do it 2 to 3 times a week, it can change your life. And I've seen it. I've been fortunate enough. In the middle of the book, I have 15 people who are nice enough to just write testimonials about what it really meant to them. And I have a couple on my website that you could look at, and that will really kind of just give you an inkling of what is possible and what our bodies can do if you give them the right kind of circumstances to be successful.
What was your client's name again?
Betty.
Betty?
Yes.
Hi, Betty. I have a client just like you, Betty, a reverse mortgage client. She lives up in Inglewood. She's 88 years old. She's going to be 89 in 2 months. I went over to her house, and she says that she loves to travel. And when I went over there, she said, look at my refrigerator. So I go to her refrigerator, and she's got all these magnets of all the places she's been. And her refrigerator is filled. She says, but there's one missing. And I said, and she goes, and I'm training for it. She goes, every morning I go to aqua aerobics or whatever it is up in Inglewood. And she says, I'm training. And I said, well, where are you going to go? Machu Picchu. She's going to be 89, and she's going to Machu Picchu, and she says nothing's stopping her. And that's the kind of attitude you have to have, I think. So, Alex, let me ask you a question. Do you have time to come back for one more segment?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So after the break, we're going to continue our conversation with Alexander Aubel, who just recently wrote that book, A Theory on Aging, or De-Evolution of Movement. You're listening to The Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170, The Answer.